Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. Print management, document management, get everything you need to the cloud. Save money this summer by shifting everything. Things kind of slow down a little bit. Perfect time to completely redo your office information system.
Yeah, and I got to be honest with you, having an internet issue again, a Wi-Fi issue again. So every time I do, something happens to the printer setup.
And you have no idea what to do with that.
Not a clue. And so this is customer service.
Mm-hmm.
Reach out to our friends, Copiers Plus. They come take care of you. No matter how trivial
That's
the
good.
issue.
That's good.
They're there for you, and I can attest to that.
Speaking of customer service, the Toronto Maple Leafs did not give us customer service. Completely upfront, Joe and I were hoping for a 2002 redo, part 2, Eastern Conference Finals between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Toronto Maple Leafs, because we are looking at this from what will the algorithm push to people. And let me tell you, hyped up Toronto fans, they will find you on the internet. So I'm kind of bummed out about that. Now we just have to deal with Le Batard and his crew doing a really, really bad troll job of acting as though they've talked about hockey all year. So I'm actually going to reach out to Stugatz this week to see if he wants to come on. I figured you two could gamble.
That'd be awesome.
I mean, honestly, you guys could just chop it up talking about lines and whatnot. So I'm going to reach out to Stugatz this week, see if he can come on. But regardless, I was not looking forward to a Florida series for a couple of reasons. There's pros and cons to all these things. Like, oh, yeah, cool, home ice. But it's Tuesday, Thursday. I was looking forward to, can you imagine Memorial Day weekend with Toronto in town, Saturday, Monday? It would have been insane. We could have had our block party at Breeze Through on a Saturday, OG lights flowing. Nah, instead we get the Panthers.
Well, there's two ways to look at this, particularly with Florida. And let's start with the business side.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Florida's already been to the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you're like, if you're a Florida fan, you're kind of like in that mode of like, just kind of wake me up when we get back to the finals. You know what I mean?
Such a classic Florida fan mentality.
You're
too.
like, yeah, because you're like, okay, we won. We knocked out this team. And you're kind of like, the Hurricanes, we beat them. So in terms of us in engagement, not only would, Toronto equal more traffic on YouTube, which equals more money for us, I think it would have been just a more engaging type of a series for the Carolina Hurricanes.
Agree.
Now, here's the second part, and this is the part that I think I've been dreading, and I even made a Star Wars analogy. I made the right one about Anakin Skywalker kind of out there, the Phantom Menace. He was looming large.
Mm-hmm.
The Panthers made it. Okay, Panthers go to the Cup 2 years in a row. Lose one, they win one. Right? So when that happens, you have to punch your lineup up a little bit to avoid the doldrums. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They did that perfectly at the deadline when they acquired Brad Marchand from Boston. And you're sitting here saying, Marchand's 37 years old, Joe. What could he possibly have left in the tank?
Ask Toronto.
What bothered me about this is these are the kind of moves that champions make.
Yeah.
Okay. I get it. The Hurricanes at that point are probably like, you know what? We've made enough moves. Dear Lord, Giglio, what else do you want us to do? This was a really fucking smart move by the Panthers.
Yeah.
And it's already paying off. Now, it's a first round pick, but I'd rather have this particular kick at it with this type of shot of energy, this type of, it's a really smart move by them. Now, you're saying, what's the big deal about Marchand? Well, while with Boston, okay, he saw the Hurricanes 3 different times in the playoffs. They won the first 2. The Canes did get them the last time in a 7-game series.
Mm-hmm.
But in 16 playoff games, he's got 23 points in 16 playoff games, including 9 goals. He is the nose-face killer when it comes to seeing the Carolina Hurricanes in the playoffs. This is the exact guy you don't want to see. Now,
but this has been the Canes arc so far,
and it has been. So in part, that's the other way to look at it.
Yeah,
you want to be the man? Well, you better beat the man.
Well, you bring up a Star Wars reference. I'm going to let you cook on that one. I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds on that.
No, it was like a shadow.
No, that's what I was trying. It's okay. Just lurk. Just stop. Okay. Now, I will put it on a level I think you'll understand a little bit better, and most people will understand, because we've all played video games.
Yes.
Okay, we've all played video games. Typically, and I'll use Zelda as the prime example of this. Mario games will do this too. Modern Mario games will do this, but I think people will understand what I'm putting down. Typically, when you get to the final stages, you have to go through bosses you've already beaten. So New Jersey would be that mini boss that you took out. You have to like, oh, I got to beat these guys again? Because there's history with New Jersey.
Yeah.
And not only have you beaten New Jersey in the playoffs a bunch of times, and there's history there, Shock at the Rock, all that kind of stuff. There's also another guy on that team that you've beaten a bunch of times too, another mini boss.
A pest.
Eric Halla. So took that out. Cool,
okay.
Whatever. Then you get to Washington. Washington's that rival. There's also that hero's journey, that hero arc. I'll use Zelda or Metroid as a prime example of this. When you first played Washington in this kind of situation, it was 2019. You had this young pup, Andrei Svechnikov. He didn't have all the things that he had acquired throughout the video game. You had the beginner sword. You had the little pea shooter. You didn't have, you're not OP yet. Well, you see Washington again through all the years and all the things that you've done. Now you're OP. You're overpowered. And you took out Washington. Here comes the other boss, right? And again, usually what happens in this situation is that, oh, it's that boss. But then he's like, oh, wait a minute. You're combining powers with this other guy? Damn it. So it's Florida, who, when you last saw them in the Eastern Conference Finals, they swept you even if Rod Brind'Amour says it wasn't a sweep.
Right.
Speaking of Dan Le Batard, something tells me the Le Batard show is going to play that clip from Rod Brind'Amour for 3 hours straight at some point this week. That will be all of their podcast. 3 hours of Rod saying, well, it wasn't really a sweep. And then you, as you just pointed out with Brad Marchand. So there we go. God, another boss. I got to beat this guy again? Fine. Now, let's say they do this because they've been taking out the bosses along the way. The real question is, who's the final boss? Is it, the last time you won the cup, the only time you've won the cup was against this team, Edmonton. Bring it all back, right? Just run it back. You got to take them out again. Or is it the nemesis? Is it Mikko Rantanen?
The jersey has not been touched. It's still there.
It's still sitting right there. So what final boss will it be? Right?
So what you're saying is if you
guy who didn't want to be here could cook you.
I know.
Right?
What you're saying is if you get past Florida, this will pop up on the screen.
What?
Thank you, Rod. But our princess is in another cast.
Yes, basically.
You're going to have to Photoshop that and use that as a slide.
I will do that.
Thank you, Canes. But our cup is in another castle.
Yeah, you got to take out Bowser again? Jeez.
This time he's got hammers and fireballs?
Jeez. Yeah, so does that work?
Perfect.
I think it works.
Perfect.
I think it works. So yeah, that's where we're at with the Carolina Hurricanes. We will be back in action for more After Darks. Looking forward to that. We'll do an After Dark Tuesday night, Thursday night, Saturday, Monday, you name it. We're there. After Darks is brought to you by our friends at Bloom and Blinds. Check them out, 919-980-9815. You do 10 or more window treatments with Bloom and Blinds. They're going to give you 10% off. But it goes beyond that. You're looking for repair on your window treatments?
Room darkening right now where we're trying to get a little extra sleep. That sun's out early. Just have a conversation because you don't know. You don't know what you need.
You don't.
I tell you what, you don't need the hassle of installing all these blinds if you're moving or getting into a new place. You don't need that in your life. You don't need that hassle.
So call 919-980-9815. Speaking of phone numbers, let's get to the OG Sports phone, shall we?
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
All right, let's go to a 919.
Hey, Joe, it's Alex calling from Washington, D.C. Wow, what a game. What a series. So proud of the team. Putting them away when you have them on the ropes. That's what good teams do. And, what a great game. Terrible atmosphere. Capital One, so quiet. You know that they were on the brink of elimination. The fans could feel it. It was a tense stadium to be in. But it's over now, and we did it. So super proud. You know, I feel like everything about this series and the team themselves has already been repeated over and over and over. But just want to say that appreciate you guys. Love the show. It's been really fun to call in after every game. It's really fun to be able to be from one place, live in a different city, and then watch your favorite team play in that city. So I'm going to hand it over to our next Washington, D.C. correspondent, former Governor Roy Cooper soon. But let's go Canes. All right, take care.
Yeah, we've had Roy once a series.
Okay.
So we're going to have to, that also means I have to miss a show.
Oh boy.
Right? Well, how about,
don't
no. How about I'm there, but I'm not? Because apparently Roy will not come on when I'm on.
I don't think that's the case.
I don't know, man. I'm starting to think that. All right, let's go to a 919.
Hey, this is Scott in Wake Forest. Just watching the end of this Panthers-Leafs game, and it's making me think, hey, we got home ice against the Panthers. That's good. Oh, but we got to play the Panthers. Well, it makes me think about NC State and their run. They had to go through Duke and UNC to really make their win, make sense. So, hey, let's go do that. The Canes got to go through the Panthers to make this work. And, hey, in the Oilers or Dallas Stars, there's going to be plenty of storylines against each of those opponents, too. So, hey, this just might be the years. Go Canes.
Now, I have been told that people do not like ACC basketball analogies with their hockey. For the record, I didn't make that one. However, that's a good one.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, this is the first bit of bracket luck going against them.
A little bit.
I could point that out. That's fine.
You're going to have to beat good teams one way or the other.
Ultimately, unless you're Virginia in 2019, you are going to have to beat the best teams in the field. Yes.
So we're doing pros and cons. All right. So we're doing pros and cons, right? Well, here's some pros and cons. I get the idea. You don't want to go against Florida because of all the stated reasons before that. They're also a little bit more physical. You see how they go at their goalies. You're probably worried about Freddie, all that kind of stuff. But we all understood that when the Leafs set up a game 7 back home, how this was going to end, right? Like all they did was they upped the ante on maximum kicking yourself in the dick. And what was the final score of the last 2 home games in Toronto? Think about that.
Was it 13-2?
13-2 was, I think, right. I think that was the case, right? I mean, they completely melted down. So on one hand, I'm kind of bummed out that no. I wanted the Leafs to leaf against the Canes. That's bracket luck.
Yeah.
However, I also I feel better for Freddie, right?
Yes. I was going to say there is one part of this that I do think is helpful.
So while, yes, I understand Canes fans being like, damn, have you seen how the Panthers just go at goalies? Well, you know who else would have gone at a goalie? The Toronto media would have gone, not after Freddie, but man, you know how Freddie is with the media.
Yeah, I mean, he's got PTSD from his time in Toronto.
That's a real thing. Even Paul Maurice talked about that because Paul knows.
Also someone who potentially has PTSD from his time in Toronto.
Paul knows, okay? And that man even felt that with the Marlies, okay? So anyway, I do think there's some pros and cons to it. Either way, you're going to be facing a good team. All right, 2-919.
Hey, guys. Love you guys. Hey, good win tonight for Dallas. Just want to ask you guys the question. Which one is the bigger storyline? Canes versus Rantanen and the man with the horns, or a rematch 06 Edmonton and Carolina? Let me know what you think is the better storyline. Thanks, guys.
I mean, the better storyline is Mikko, straight up.
Yeah.
That's the better storyline. That's the fresh storyline. That's the one that will get people really, really worked up. That's what will get the Canes fans all in a lather and how people retcon what happened with Mikko Rantanen. So that's the better storyline. 919.
Hey, OG, NC State moderator here. Just in case if you couldn't tell that I have a newborn, it's currently 4:30 a.m. and I'm watching the Winnipeg-Dallas game, number 6. And I noticed something with Mikko, and I don't know if I'm making a jump that's a conclusion that I'm drawing because I'm so tired, but looking at Mikko's minutes from game 4 and 5, he's at 24 minutes a game. And they're doing double shifts, running 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. I'm curious if Mikko didn't want to be, part of the reason Mikko didn't want to be in Carolina is because of Rod's system in terms of like minutes. because he's along at 24 for the last 2 games right now. And he would never have done that under Rod, because Rod believes in running all the lines, trying to make sure we use all of our depth. And Dallas is really just throwing him out there for double shifts as often as possible and giving him as much ice time as possible. So maybe that had a little bit to do with why Miko didn't want to be here. Granted, like his fiance or whatever didn't want to be here either, but that may have played into it as well. But I'm curious if that makes any sense and if y'all would agree or disagree. I'll hang up and listen. Thanks, y'all.
Man, the moderator does sound tired. That new dad life. So it's for people who are like, oh man, Sebastian Aho's been a little bit quiet on the score sheet. Yeah, he just had a baby, or Rosa just had a baby. There is such a thing as being super, super tired about this stuff. Yeah, look, styles matter. And if you play a particular way, you want to have a little bit more leeway. You want to get those minutes. You feel like that's how you're going to do it. Yeah, Rod's system is not for you. It makes total sense.
But I don't think he had an open mind about.
No,
I think that's a little bit too granular. What you're saying makes sense.
It makes a ton of sense.
What the moderator's saying makes sense.
Yes,
he likes to play more minutes, whatever side shot. The guy McKinnon is. He got used to that. He plays better with that. Blah 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 blah. That's all fine and dandy. It's all logical. But he didn't have an open mind about where he wanted to go. Now, this is where I don't blame him. I said this the same thing about Gensel the previous year. When you get that close to your freedom, you want to be the one who makes the choice, not anyone else.
Well,
and that's where I will always say to the Hurricanes, when you try to make those moves and try to make those plays, the only way to get those players is to overpay them. By all accounts, they were willing. By all accounts, they were willing to overpay
Miko
in this case.
They were ready.
But I think his mindset was, you're not on my list. It doesn't matter what you do. He was obviously not willing to even give it a fair shot.
Nope.
As evidenced by the game against Boston the day before he's traded.
Yeah.
And that's as simple as that. If we get to the next round and Dallas is there, I'll repeat myself again. But for right now, try to understand that it's really just as simple as that.
Yeah. And the other thing too, I would say, I brought up Mitch Marner. You said, well, didn't they try to go for Mitch Marner the same way they went after Mikko Rantanen? I'm like, well, yeah, but who's to say that once he gets his freedom and he starts to look at the offers and you're in the midst of, all right, where am I going to go next? Maybe there's a change of mindset. Who's to say? This last one came in before everything was settled, and I'm pretty sure, but it actually does lead to a little bit of a transition and a similarity between Toronto and another team that has made their way to the Eastern Conference Finals.
I'm thinking about how the NHL playoffs are folding out, and I'm thinking I want to have the Jets Oilers in the West and the Canes Leafs in the East, and then Canada gets a huge boner because they're, oh my gosh, we're going to finally win the cup, and then oops, the Canes win it all. Thwart their hopes. That would be a perfect way for the Canes to win it all. See ya.
So we did not get that, obviously, but we are getting a version of that in basketball. We are getting a version of that in basketball. Real quick.
Let's take a break. Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hill.
Big thanks to Happy and Hell. Check them out. Download the app. Use that promo code OG25 to save 25% off your order right now. Screen grab it, send it to us, and you can be in the running for the metal card that gives you 20% off for life. Duke forever. Happy and Hail forever, if you will. So yeah, go use that promo code OG25. Happy and Hail's they got the pop-up spot in downtown Raleigh. Weather's supposed to be nice this week, so go check it out. $10 for a bowl. You're not going to find a better deal in downtown Raleigh. So we got the Knicks. All right. I do think there's a key distinction between Toronto and the Knicks, though. There's a key distinction in that, as we discussed earlier, that building, that media, I mean, is incredibly harsh. Okay.
I'm still trying to find the difference here.
With the Knicks,
but I'm following.
The Knicks almost feels like a celebration because it's been a hot minute since they've been in this situation. This is like a lot of old heads. I'm sure Shannon has, our old producer here in Raleigh's with ESPN doing bigger and better things. But something tells me Shannon Penn is dusting off his old Timbs. He's got a jersey he hasn't worn in a hot minute. He's probably listening to Nas again, maybe some Biggie, Fitty. Like all that kind of stuff. Get that drill out of here. He's going old school hip hop, right? Like you just living in the moment. Like just taking it old school. And it's Knicks Pacers, the Eastern Conference. You can't. The only thing that would have been better that really would, get the juices flowing would be like Heat Knicks, right? But no, we got Pacers Knicks. I'm sure we're going to see the Reggie Miller footage all day, right? So the Knicks feels like it's a celebration and everybody's feeling good. And it's not, they're along for the ride. Whereas with Toronto, you were just like the ass cheeks were so puckered. I don't feel the same thing with the Knicks. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
It's a fair point.
Okay.
Potentially even accurate.
Okay.
Because of the way that they did celebrate in the streets of Manhattan after eliminating the Celtics in checks notes the second round.
Bing bong.
I mean, you love to say how soft New York City is.
Oh, it's the softest.
Oh my
It
God.
is do you see my point now?
Oh my Lord.
You see how soft it is? Anyway.
But yeah, the king is dead. The Leafs are dead. Long live the Leafs. Because I got news for you. The basketball version of the Leafs are the New York Knicks. The Leafs haven't won a championship since 1967.
Yeah.
The Knicks have just a little bit of a head start on them. In 1973 is the last time that the Knicks won a championship.
Oh boy.
All of that money in the capital of the world, in the world's most famous arena in your sport, and you don't have anything to show for it since 1973.
You have other players having marquee nights in that building, not the Knicks.
Right.
That's been the MO.
So the Knicks have been to the final since 73 in 94 and 99 and losing in heartbreaking fashion in 94. 99 was the beginning of the Spurs dynasty.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Pacers. The Pacers, their opponent. Pacers actually eliminated them from the playoffs last year. Talk about bracket luck. Now all of a sudden you get the Pacers. You're like, that is the key to all of this. And this is why you're going to Toronto this thing up. Okay. You're going to play the Pacers, who have eliminated you 5 times, by the way, since 95.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, yeah, we finally got rid of the Celtics. Now we got the Pacers. Here's the thing. I actually think they're going to beat the Pacers this time around.
Interesting.
I actually do. Because last year when they played, it was a 7-game series. The Knicks weren't healthy. They also didn't have Mikal Bridges. They also didn't have the big guy, the defender, that Mitchell, who is their he's a difference maker on defense. Okay. So I actually think they're going to beat the Pacers, and now people are really going to be happy. I mean, we're talking New York's going to be ecstatic. And then who's going to be there waiting for them? Because, the one thing that the Knicks tried forever and ever, they even went out and got Pat Riley. They're like, yeah, man, we're going to play bully ball. We're going to beat everybody. But who was waiting for them there every single time?
Yeah.
Jordan got him 5 times between 89 and 96 and 96.
So the Ant-Man's waiting
And
for
look
him?
at this graphic, man. Honestly.
For those who are not watching on YouTube, it is a blend of Anthony Edwards.
Is it?
And
I mean,
Michael Jordan.
I see one person.
No.
I see one person.
No, 2 totally different guys. But anyway,
there's one waiting for him there, and I think Minnesota's going to. And obviously, you had the trade between Minnesota and the Knicks. I'm happy for the NBA to have this because it's not about the market. It's about, again, having this type of semi-cursed team with this long drought. But like you said, at some point they will punch themselves in their own dick.
Housekeeping.
All right, big thanks to Inovana for sponsoring Housekeeping. Check them out, inovana.com.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Inovana.
OG Light is getting canned this week. Actually, it's getting canned on Tuesday.
Sounds both dirty and wrong, and also like giving me slight flashbacks.
I mean, so it's getting canned tomorrow.
Can we use a different terminology? I don't like
canned.
Yeah, like
we got canned,
right?
But now the
no,
table has turned. Now we are canning our own beer.
Okay,
see,
all right.
Life finds a way. Life finds a way. So
520 is it tomorrow?
Yeah, it gets canned tomorrow. Should be available at Breeze Through later in the week, just in time for maybe not Tuesday night's game, but definitely Thursday night's game.
Okay.
So go to the Breeze Through. It'll be available at Breeze Through this week. It'll also be available at Shady's and things like that. But I know it'll be available outside the arena. So go get yourself
Swine. Yeah.
Longleaf Swine will have it too. I'm trying to figure out who because I'm still trying to look, the beer distribution business, not for me, as I'm finding out. But OG Light will be available at Breeze Through for sure this week, and obviously Longleaf Swine. So go pick it up as you're headed to the games. Go to breezethrough.com to find out more. Get your car washed too while you're there, because that stuff comes in handy. We mentioned Shady's. Shady's going to have it. Big thanks to our friends at Whitaker and Hamer. Check them out online at wh.lawyer. Again, that's wh.lawyer, attorneys and counselors at law. And may I suggest, now that it's warm, you're going to be tailgating, you need the fit, go to rowback.com. Get the City of Oaks polo. It's got little hockey players on it and things like that. It's got Dorton Arena on it. It's got all sorts of cool little callbacks. Get it, because it's perfect for this time of the year. So go to rowback.com, use that promo code OG20 to save 20% off your order. And I know what you're thinking, man, these playoff tickets are freaking pricey. Totally understand that. So you're going to have to save money somewhere. May I suggest you call Matt Davis over at State Farm? Say, hey, Matt, I need to save money on home and auto because I got to pay for Eastern Conference Finals tickets. Got you, fam. So he'll work it out and you'll save enough money. I guarantee you'll save enough money to at least get tickets for one game.
One game.
One game. Call him today, 919-779-8277, or go to insuregarner.com. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, Hot Garbage Sports is the name of the YouTube channel. He is a coach up in Winnipeg. He's been playing hockey for a long time. He's been coaching for a long time. And Canes fans seems to like him because he's like the one YouTuber that seems to like the Hurricanes and how they play. Ryan Didoshak is joining us now. Ryan, thanks for the time, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And it's wild to me that everybody seems to want to talk about how no one likes the Canes. And I love the Canes. I don't see how anybody can't love how this team plays hockey. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, let's actually start there before we get into some other fun things, because you got on my radar because of some Canes fans who are just desperate for somebody to talk, as they would say, objectively about the Carolina Hurricanes rather than what we see on a national broadcast, which I get it. There's storylines and things like that that you want to bake in. I get where TV comes from. So how did we end up here? How did we end up with this discussion about the Canes being, quote unquote, boring as they make their way to the Eastern Conference Finals, or they're boring on their way to making the playoffs for 7 straight years and winning a series every single time?
Well, I've been watching them for quite a long time, like every diehard fan. I don't get to watch them as much as the diehard fans do, so admittedly, I get them closer to playoff time, and there's a lot of teams to cover. But they've always been stout defensively. I think it all started with Rod Brindamore coming on to this team. And it takes a long time to carve a team in your image. And the way Rod Brindamore has always played hockey, the way he's come up, and the way he maintains himself today is obviously seen in Carolina. Hockey is not a complicated game, although guys like me like to make it that way. Cardiovascular conditioning, playing team defense, dedicating yourself to these little things that Brindamore was known for and how he played as a teammate on both sides of the puck is super critical to winning championships, and he knows that. He's one of the oldest players to win a championship and an impact player with Carolina at that time. And what he did and the way he plays, it can be duplicated. It's just very hard because you need to have teammates that have the will and the want to do it. They really have to believe into the way the game is played. And he's now got 20 to 25 players that believe that. You got to get one guy committed, then two. And once you have two, you have a movement, especially if they're the right two. And I've watched Carolina progress into this. And I do think they're very near their final form now. They've added the offensive component this year, which is completely different than what I saw last year and years past when they were knocked out in the second and the third round. They're not just putting pucks on net, but they're generating a very high amount of offense. And they're generating it from the places that I think everybody likes to generate from, and I don't understand why the media or other people would drag on them. They put pucks to the net, they go to the net, and they bang in those really hard goals in those really hard to play places. And that is playoff success. Yet people want to just say it's random shots on net. It's anything but random.
Is there really this giant fundamental difference between the way that the Hurricanes play and, say, the other 31 teams?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
When you watch Carolina play, every NHL player knows this. We coach them from 12 years old and on into the tactics of defense and the tactics of playing without the puck. But as the game has progressed, in my opinion, in the last maybe 10 to 15 years, That has been overshadowed by players' ability to dominate offensively, and many more players can dominate offensively than ever before. And that makes up for a lot. There's a lot of teams in the NHL. You can fix a lot of problems with scoring and being hyper talented. And coaches from every level at AAA through to prep, through to junior, into college, and then into pros will get these hyper talented players who can make up for their defensive shortcomings by scoring. And there's more of them than ever. And when you get into the pro leagues, they go, well, it's worked for me the whole way. Why do I have to commit to it? And one guy I love to pick on is a guy like Artemi Panarin, really great hockey player, phenomenal. But on the coaching side, I watch him do not a lot of things great defensively, and it's the hard things you have to do. So when I look at Carolina, two things that stand out: taking that extra stride to get the puck is exhausting. It is a very hard thing to do. And I've watched multiple shifts of Carolina with the same 2, 3, 4 players lose a puck, outskate their opponent 4 or 5 strides, get body position in front of an opponent, use physicality to take that puck away, which isn't a booming check. It's just standing in front of a player and separating them, getting that puck, and sometimes outworking 1 or 2 guys down in a 2-on-1. And then if it's a 2-on-1, they make it a 2-on-2, and they'll make it a 3-on-2 faster than you can spin. And if it's a 4-on-4, they'll make it a 5-on-4. They understand when to go and when to step back. And we have these interesting ideas in hockey called contain and pressure. Pressure always has to come when a player turns their back or when they bobble or fumble a puck. You need to pressure. And when that happens, Carolina wastes 0 time pressuring a puck. And they cause those pressure points by containing at the exact right times. Containing is when you see their eyes, you see their chest, and you're slowly creeping in, taking away time and space by playing angles. Then as soon as that offensive player makes a mistake, you're on them. You know, that old saying, like white on rice. And I see Carolina do it. It causes turnovers and the puck's on their stick and they're generating shots. The last key to their offense is they don't allow teams to get set in their defensive zone structures. They all have their own structures that are set. Why let them set? I agree with Brenda Moore's tactics. Don't let them get set up. Just get a puck on net.
Yeah.
These are too good.
Well, it's funny that you bring up Panarin because, you know, here what ends up happening, look, when you get bounced from the playoffs, you focus on what went wrong and where you need to get better. So the common knock here, as we've discussed it locally, is, well, they got to get high-end talent. But then you get into the debate of, well, the high-end talent doesn't want to be here. You know, Mikko Rantanen being the latest example. Gensel's a different matter altogether. I always thought that was a contract situation that played out poorly for the Carolina Hurricanes. But the knock is high-end level guys are going to take the Canes out. I mean, they're going to see Brad Marchand again. And the Canes fans know all about that with Boston and whatnot. They're going to take us out because we just keep peppering shots. And just because you put 60 shots on net, that doesn't mean any of them were quality. A lot of them go into the gut. They're not creating traffic. There's all sorts of reasons why those shots are not all created equally. And I'm not even talking about getting into the nitty-gritty of natural stat trick and what's a high danger and what's not. I get all that kind of stuff. So I guess what I'm getting at is, from a coaching perspective, I can see where you're geeking out on this. Yeah. And I can see my son's coach geeking out on this right now. But players, do they want to play in this particular system? Do they, for lack of a better term, do they want to cook rather than being so stringent?
I believe these guys do because they're finding success. You can see it in the attitude and the way they play. It's very simple to see a team that shuts down, and I hate to pick on the Leafs, but let's look at it. Let's look at a couple. I really do. I think that point stings, and I can go on to how bad I feel for the Leafs fan base for a very long time because I do.
You're talking about the core four. I mean, here is some high level talent getting paid a hell of a lot of money, and then that happens.
Yep. And I watched them play Florida, which you're about to play. And you can see the body language and the lack of wanting to get pucks at certain times. And you can see when it's going good, it goes good for them. But in Carolina, when things aren't going good, I don't see those body language pieces. And I see a team that wants to play for each other. And that's the criticalness, I think, as a coach. And I think that's what Carolina fans see because they watch them all day and the national media might miss. They're never slouch shoulder. They're never getting on each other. I don't see them screaming at each other in terms of like, you screwed up, you screwed up. And when you get success, and they've had a lot of it lately, it may not be a cup. Fans are different, but from a team perspective, like you've won rounds, you start believing. I think this team believes. It matters.
That's where the rubber meets the road, right? We're
Yeah.
finally here in a round where the other team is more talented than they are, and if they win this round, they'll play another team who's got more talent than they do again.
This was the team that John Forsland a couple of weeks ago said, "Yeah, man, Florida's not the team you want to see in this situation." So and that's where friends are freaking out on this one right now.
So you think they can break through? You use the word hyper talented. That's one I like to say. Tippy top talent back down here in Raleigh.
Yeah.
So, do you think the Hurricanes, with this style, the way that they play, that they can break through against these teams that are hyper talented?
I think they can, and I think they've done it. I had Washington rated as the number 2 team going into the playoffs this year, and that wasn't a mistake, and I don't believe I regret making that choice. You don't get the most amount of points in the Eastern Conference in the regular season by not being really good. And Carolina made them look slow. That's the difference. When I watched them play Washington, the narrative turned into, oh, I guess they're aging. Oh, there's this. It was all like what Washington did wrong. I think Carolina slowed them down to a point where that hyper talent didn't come through because the defense beat them. And that defense turned into offense. And there were times Carolina just looked like the fastest team in the league. But to me, as a coach, speed means getting the puck. It doesn't necessarily mean transition zone. It means when you don't have the puck, how quickly do you get it back? And they get it back faster than anyone.
So how'd you end up here, man? Doing YouTube, talking these things down with little boxes and talking about, pinning guys and all that kind of stuff. Basically coaching on YouTube. How'd you end up here?
So I coached with Hockey Canada for about a decade, and then that COVID pandemic hit. So through Hockey Canada, I went through about 4 or 5 years of rigorous training, if you will. It took me about 3 years alone to get a certification called High Performance 1. So we have to take 3 to 4 weeks of our time. It's all unpaid, right in the middle of summer, and we got 10 minutes of summer in Canada. You guys, I just want to be in Carolina golfing at times, but 10 minutes of summer. So I nuked all of that in a hotel room, learning from guys. Barry Trotz comes in, Paul Maurice came in, tons of really high level coaches come in, and they start giving us the way of how you build a team, how you build structure, how you build tactics. It's just way too long. And then when you're done that, you have to write anywhere between 150 and 250 page thesis, for lack of a better word, on your understanding of the game and what you would do in certain situations with players at all levels. And then from there, you go into coaching at a very high level, and you're evaluated basically every week. How are you doing? What are you doing? Everything's under that microscope. And then if they like you and you pass, you get a certification and a piece of paper with your name on it.
Okay.
And that's where it ended up. And from there, I was having a great time doing it. We aren't paid to do this in Canada, not until we make the pros. So we go through all this just for fun.
Yeah.
This is just passion for the game. And COVID hit. And like everybody else, we went home. And I had a good friend of mine we were watching YouTube, and I said, I think I could do that. And he goes, you couldn't do that. I said, watch me. And I didn't know anything about video editing. I'm still not the best editor. You could see it in my videos. I knew nothing about audio. Like, I just started picking this up, and I went, I wonder if anyone wants to know this nerdy crap that's in my head.
The answer is
I started doing it.
Yeah. The answer is
you have a great delivery.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So it's been 5 years. It's tough because, like you guys know, in media, I do this by myself. I don't have an editor. I don't have a graphic designer. I don't have a script writer. And what you see in the playoff run right now with Carolina is what I would do with a hockey team. After post game, we would go in, we would break down what we saw. We wouldn't get into hyper stats like you talked, like natural stat trick and that. We would just talk at a very, high level. Player A, B, C, you did well. This is a good example of what we did well. This is a poor example. This is what we need for next game. This is how we get mentally prepared. Thanks very much, guys. We'll see you tomorrow, win or lose. And I just took that onto YouTube and went, I guess people want to watch it.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff. Do I have this right? You coached Seth Jarvis for like 2 weeks?
You do have that right. Yes. So Seth is a Winnipeg player.
When was this?
So the Seth Jarvis friends, the friends that get in the bands?
Yeah, they all love McDonald's, apparently. These
guys are beauties. So Seth and his friends have always been very close. And I had for an entire season 2 of Seth's best friends, Fry and Sloan, Tremblay and Lucas Fry. And they're 2 guys that keep going down. And they played a level below Seth. When 13-14 came up, Seth went up. They stayed down. And it's not because they're bad. It's Seth's just that good. And the next summer, we always have these high performance camps from Hockey Canada and Hockey Winnipeg, where you take the best of the best, and they get prepared to go play in the WHL. And we had one of those camps. So we take the top 100 kids in the province. They all play a mini tournament for 2 weeks against each other. And I got lucky enough to have Seth thrown on my team. So for that 2 weeks, I got to watch him play. We run practices, we run skill drills. And the amazing thing about him was twofold. One, him and his friends are world-class humans. You guys see that. They are 10 out of 10 people.
Yeah.
Very smart, very brilliant guys. And number two, he had more talent at 13 and 14 than 18 and 19-year-olds at a very high level had. He had a harder shot at 13 than I would say most players did. But what stood out to me about him is what he could do with the puck at speed at that age. It was breaking, like absolutely ankle breaking. And when he got into that draft, everybody in Winnipeg was begging. We had the 10th pick. We wanted him, and we passed on him for Cole Perfetti, and 11 other teams passed for him. And I do not forget me and the guys who had him just looking at each other going, everyone is going to regret that. That's the player in the draft.
Yeah.
That is the guy. And he has the opportunity. We talk about hyper talent. He has the opportunity to be a top 20 NHL player. For all intents and purposes, he's a man. He won't like to hear it, but he's a kid in hockey terms. Yeah. And he made Team Canada, the hardest team on the planet to make. And I'm not knocking Team America, but you make Team Canada hockey. What more is there? And he made it on his first try.
Right.
Crosby was cut on his first try.
Which is insane.
Seth Jarvis made it.
Which is insane. Yeah. When you put it like that. Although I'm gonna have to jot that down. That's a good line. That is such a coach thing to say. Yeah. It's not that you're bad. It's just that he's that good. I'm gonna have to use that one with my 14-year-old.
It's not me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not you. It's me.
Yeah, because look, my kid just went through junior Canes tryouts, and while he's on a team, he had to see some buddies move up, and he's kind of bummed out about that. But I'm gonna have to use that line on him. It's not that they're just that good, man. That's how it is. I like that.
I could see, and most coaches at my level can see an NHL player coming at 13, 14. Parents want to say they can't. That's bias. There are guys that sneak through later. They develop later. But if you're going to be a top 20, top 30, top 100 NHL player, you see it coming.
So I'm assuming you had that same thought when you played with the Staal brothers, or two of the Staal brothers, I'm guessing?
Yeah. So there was a team in Thunder Bay. So Thunder Bay has a traveling team. They played in the Manitoba Loop, the Winnipeg Loop for AAA.
Yeah.
Mark Jordan and Tom Pyatt, I believe it was Tom, might have been his brother, but all on the same team. Eric Staal had already just cracked into Carolina. Mm-hmm. And this team just ran through everybody. It didn't matter where they went. I mean, they had 4 NHL players on a midget hockey team.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
Nothing. So the best of the best in Winnipeg, we're losing like 10-6 to these guys. And they were horses back then. And I remember Mark coming into the corner, and I think he took the back of my head with the size of his hand, and I didn't see it coming. And he face palmed me into right into the glass. Never been concussed then, but I got concussed there. But this was the days where we didn't know what this was. And I got to the bench, slugged some water, and the coach was like, you'll be fine. And I was like, you're right. I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one I still remember.
I was going to say, that's
not
one
remembering.
You remember?
I remember not remembering.
Okay.
It wasn't as bad as what happened to Seth with Trouba. That one was very scary. Those are ones that you don't forget. I do remember his friends telling me he lost a few days on that one.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
Yeah.
This one I didn't. I remember Mark very well. I remember Jordan well. So.
Well, Ryan, we appreciate the insight. Glad we could connect. I'm sure we can do this again. Hot Garbage Sports is the name of the YouTube channel. Go check it out if you want to get into some breakdowns about what the Canes are doing in a very explain like I'm 5 sort of way that I can understand, which is always important. Ryan, we appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Are we smarter having listened to that?
Yeah,
I think so. I think we got a little smarter today. Not what I was expecting.
Soothing.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. Hockey knowledge.
I can't remember where you are on the Sidney Sweeney scale.
I mean, not my type, but I understand.
Okay.
I understand. Let me put it this way. I understand the appeal.
She must be in a movie with somebody, and they put out this video.
Yeah.
Where it's whoever the actor is with her. They have like this amazing chemistry, number one. they're telling each other pickup lines on a mic between them.
Yeah.
The ASMR is
Oh,
off
I see.
the charts.
I see. Good stuff.
Now,
Good stuff.
at the risk of going the wrong place here, Ryan had a very soothing voice. I enjoy his delivery.
Little hockey ASMR.
Yeah, like there's a nice cadence there. I like that.
It's Canadian.
It wasn't even a boot.
Well,
it was just like a real nice, like he had a really nice
Like
microphone. Should I be impressed? Are you impressed that I was impressed with his microphone?
His microphone's he has a very,
like
very
that
good
was
setup.
a really nice setup.
There are times where
delivery.
there are some times where I regret, like, did I get the right microphone? Should I think about getting other microphones?
I mean, his mix minus was on point.
It's not a mix minus, dude. Stop calling it a mix minus. It has nothing to do with mix minus. Mix minus has everything to do with like how a phone call works and who's hearing what on the back end and things like that. But to before we move on here, we start talking about Hometown Realty. You had sent me this, but I can't think of a better situation than to use this right now, right? So, we're talking about Canadians and how and being nice at the end of the day. Well, here is somebody, this is from Bar Down, walking through Maple Leaf Square or whatever they call it ahead of the game. And he's wearing a Brad Marchand jersey, going through Toronto, right? So here's, let me pull the audio up, and here's, I want you to focus on, this is good audio. I want you to focus on what the Toronto fans are saying.
Man, take that jersey off. Hit the road, buddy. Hit the road. First chance to lose them.
This is my favorite part. There's a guy dressed up as Darth Vader in a Leafs jersey. Well, how does it end for Darth Vader? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm the Empire. Last time I checked, you get blown up.
Long way from Florida, eh, buddy?
That's my favorite part. Long way from Florida, eh, buddy? So nice. Clearly talking trash, but so nice. Anyway, no trash talk for Hometown Realty. Check them out, myhdr.com. You can buy and sell with confidence. You're going to be singing their praises. That's all I'm saying. Singing their praises. So go to myhdr.com. You can buy and sell with confidence. Also, big thanks to Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. This is a polite way of telling the mosquitoes, we don't want you hanging out in the backyard. Cool? Cool. We got Mosquito Authority. Bugsbite.com is the website. You can bundle and save with Pest Authority and Mosquito Authority. Inside of your house with like roaches and stuff like that. Mosquito Authority for the outside of your house with mosquito control. And of course, we're talking about your home, right? Well, your home is your biggest asset. So clearly you want to enjoy the best what your needs are. So Hometown Realty comes into play for that. You want to take care of the outside of your house so you can enjoy it. That's where Mosquito Authority comes into play. But you want to utilize your house as your biggest asset for other things as well. Perhaps debt consolidation. I can tell you right now that whatever you think of the interest rates, they're a lot lower than credit card interest rates. Ooh. So you can consolidate that debt under one payment under a better interest rate, thanks to our friends at Miller Lending. So check them out, millerlending.com/the OG, or call them directly at 919-447-3377. Unlike me, who I'm stumbling over my words, they are not going to stumble over making sure that you save money and you're in the best situation going forward to stay flexible with your house.
Yeah, this is about having a conversation and figuring out what your options are. That's what I did. And I'm in a much better place this week than I was last week. Let's just say that.
Perfect. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, ACC Baseball, etc., is the podcast, part of the D1 Podcast Network. He is Daron Vaught. Daron, what's up, man?
A lot. One of the best weeks of the year, conference tournament week. We've got the ACC Baseball Championship back in Durham. I'm excited about that. Things are good. Things are good, guys.
I want to apologize before we get started because I texted you on Sunday evening. I said, it's time to break the emergency Vaught glass. And the reason why I'm apologizing is that we find ourselves once again with the Carolina Hurricanes taking all the air out of the room. I mean, there is this relationship when the Canes weren't so hot and not making the playoffs for 10 years. ACC baseball kind of rose up to take its place this time of the year. But now with Rod Brindamore and 7 straight playoffs and going back to the Eastern Conference Finals, you look up and you go, whoa, ACC baseball tournaments this week? What the hell did I miss? Like, what's going on here? So I was like, damn it, we haven't talked barely any baseball. And here we are with the ACC once again. We're so caught up in basketball and what they can do to get better. We're so caught up with football. What can we do to get to the college football playoff? How many teams we're going to get? Meanwhile, ACC baseball continues to be very strong.
Yeah, that's the case. And look, you guys know me. If it's a Hurricanes run that pulls some of the attention away, I don't mind. I love it. So I'm happy that the Canes are as deep into the playoffs once again as they are. ACC baseball it continues to be right up there with, the SEC is far and away, I don't think there's any argument, the best baseball conference in America. Mm-hmm. The ACC continues to be very, very good. Is it good enough to be an Omaha field of 4 SEC, 4 ACC this year like it was last year? That remains to be seen. I would argue, too, that the SEC's top teams are not as strong as they were last year, and it's kind of a theme across all of college baseball. There are no sure thing super team dynamos out there. There are really, really good teams, but we can list every top contender in the ACC, and I can give you a list of at least 2, 3, 4 concerns I have, right? It's just something that is omnipresent in college baseball this year. Is even the best teams have warts.
Let's start with the big change this year, Daron. They're going to a single elimination tournament. Round of applause.
R.I.P. the Jamboree. R.I.P.
Well, I love this, but we got to go back like a half a step because Daron understands this.
Yeah.
They went to the Jamboree because they felt like the double elimination tournament was wearing their arms out, costing them in the NCAA tournament. So they have this idea. All right, we're going to go to this pool play. We're going to, save ourselves, all this other stuff. Well, they ended up playing like what, Daron, at minimum 4 meaningless games each year in the tournament.
Yeah.
And so it was like, everyone was like, what are we doing here? So I applaud them. But my question to you is like, what took them so long to figure out a single elimination bracket?
Well, it's a great question. The hilarious thing is the pool play was starting to catch on across college baseball as of as recently as 2 years ago. You heard murmurs that the SEC was going to adopt to the same format. And it's like, wow, the ACC is really onto something. It's helped them out in terms of getting more teams into the field because, teams that needed more games got more games, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's like a 180, right? It's like, okay, cool. Single elimination. Here we go. And I think it's simple. When the leagues and the coaches are the ones who vote on this, I think that's important. The coaches are the ones who vote on these changes. When they make these types of changes, it is to enhance their program's chances of getting into an NCAA regional. That's it. That's it. They don't care about you, the fan. They don't care about the TV that it provides. They do not care about anything other than in an event that I'm on, my team is on the bubble. What's going to give us the best chance to get in? So a single elimination, everybody makes it, all 16 teams. I love that. Every game's an elimination game. I love that. But say you're a team that's on the bubble for making a regional. You get to Durham or wherever it's going to be played, and you play one game and you lose it. Well, it's to a fellow ACC team, probably a pretty good RPI, probably not going to ruin your resume. If you're a team that is on the outside of the bubble, you're going to play a game. Even if you lose it, pretty good RPI opponents, your resume is not going to get worse with a loss. But if you haul off 3, 4, maybe even 5 wins, that's what it's going to require, teams 9 through 16 to win the whole thing, then you can greatly enhance your case. And it comes with low risk is the point. So this was built to keep bubble teams on the bubble, keep in teams in, and offer a chance for a team like, 16 seed Cal, if they get a wild hair and want to win 5 games in 6 days, to steal a bid and get in.
Yeah, the loser here is Miami. I don't understand how they ended up as the 9th seed, but it's been an unusual year in the ACC. So catch us up, Daron. I have a few of my favorite players that I've enjoyed this year following, and believe it or not, none of them are from NC State. But just kind of catch us up. I know last time I was there in Omaha, there were 4 ACC teams there in Virginia, Carolina, Florida State, and State. But it didn't quite go to script for all those teams this year, did it?
No. Virginia would be the main one that it has been disappointing. So they were the preseason number 2 team.
Let me cry a little bit for my fans and oh, sorry, I was using the wrong finger.
So Virginia was the number 2 team in the preseason. They got back like big time talent. Harrison Didowick is a masher for them, who hit 26 home runs last year and was expected to be a pro this time this year. Came back to school. Jay Woolfolk is a pitcher, former quarterback for Virginia's football team, and he was expected to be drafted last year and came back. So they've got all this talent back. Their roster was loaded with young guys who were not draft eligible, who were going to be back anyway. And again, they're number 2 in the preseason, and it got as shaky as it could get early. And as of late, they're experiencing an upturn. So they find themselves very much a bubble team prior to this week. It's one of the more interesting things because I think it's the most talented roster Brian O'Connor's ever had. I said it before the season when I picked them to win the College World Series. I'm saying it now when they might not even make the field of 64. It is the most talented team O'Connor's ever had at Virginia. And that's saying a lot because they've won the whole shebang. Yeah. It's a super interesting storyline coming into this week. In terms of the area teams, North Carolina had a lot coming back. They've been very good. They had a certain lull in the middle of the season where I became very disenchanted with the team's offense. That is still sort of what worries me at times, but it's been really, really good as of late. NC State got off to a rocky start early. They lost 5 consecutive games, including at the Jacksonville College Baseball Classic, where I called those games. It did not expect them as the only ranked team going into that event to be the only team to not win a game, but they've turned it around and they've been pretty good as of late. Duke was sort of off the radar for a little while up until losing a series to Georgia Tech this past weekend. They've been really hot. They've got a guy, AJ Gracia, who's a sophomore and pretty recently was hitting sub 200. And it's clicking again. But like Joe, I'm telling you, man, like this is one of the most talented hitters in the country.
Sub 200.
And he was hit sub 200 a couple of weeks ago even.
Jeez. And
he's on an absolute tear. The team's success has improved, but at least in part because of that. So yeah, it's a really interesting field for this week. It's an interesting tournament because I think all of the top contenders have holes that I can point out, and it could go anyway. It's a perfect year for it to be a 16-team field because I don't think Cal's an option because they unfortunately have to play at 6 a.m. Pacific on the first day of the tournament. It just doesn't seem like a winning formula when you got to win 5 in 6 days.
Notes, can he find lines on the they stink as it is, so yeah.
So like realistically, I don't think the 16th team is a viable outcome, but there's probably 9, 10, 12 teams that it wouldn't shock me if they won this whole thing.
You mentioned Duke. They have my favorite story, and I hope you've had him on the podcast. And I apologize for being delinquent in catching up on your podcast. Ben Miller is my favorite story in all of college baseball. Please tell me you've had him on the pod. Please tell me.
He has not been
of Ben Miller.
He has not been on the show. Actually.
Okay,
it's something that has been ideated. It's not like we're missing on that
right
concept.
I'm glad you bring it up that way because we'll get that from time to time. Like, how have you no, guys, we've thought about it. Sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. It is like we're getting this now with the Canes and the Panthers. Like, I've had a lot of people like, "You're going to get Dan Le Batard on?" Like, Dan's probably not coming on. So, although maybe if I showed him Pablo was on, maybe he would come on. Because
there you go.
I don't know. We'll see. Like, I mean, if the podcast is good enough for Pablo, so.
Yes, Ben Miller is awesome. He was an incredible player at Penn, and came to Duke last year. We thought it was just going to be the 1 year. He absolutely crushed. He's continued to do the same and leads the ACC in home runs. And he's got a fantastic twisty mustache to go with his stellar play. Durham guy. I mean, just an incredible story. Ben is one of my favorites. I want to speak, actually, if I can, to a larger point about Duke.
Okay.
He's a perfect example of what they've done right with Chris Pollard, because they have seen a lot of success out of these transfers, not just from Ivy League schools. They had a guy, Charlie Bielenson, last year, who was kind of their high leverage closer type guy, borderline psychotic, but he was a transfer from Brown. So like the worst kind of psycho. He's super smart too. So but Chuck B was a very good pitcher at Brown. And my point is, he got to Duke, got to the ACC. We alluded to it. One of the toughest conferences to play in college baseball. And he got better. Ben Miller's the same thing. He was an excellent player at Penn. It could have been argued the step up to the ACC might have seen him regress a little bit. Not only did he not regress, he progressed and has become a better player. Duke had a guy from VMI last year in its infield, Zach Morris. You might remember the Saved by the Bell puns. Yeah. He had a very successful ACC tournament. He was like 10 times the player he ever was at VMI as a Blue Devil. And it's just something that Duke has done so well. I don't know what the secret sauce is there, but in the age where over half of these rosters have previous college baseball experience at other institutions, it seems pretty important to be able to get more out of those guys than their previous places did. And Duke is exceptional at that.
To fill Ovies and the rest of the audience, you said Ben Miller. We thought he'd only have him for a year because most people have the type of year that he had and they go play pro baseball.
Off they go, right?
Ben Miller was like, yeah, here's the thing. I went to Penn and now I'm at Duke and I'm going to go to medical school and become a surgeon from Duke. So you could keep like the bus ride to Huntsville and wherever else. I'm good on that front. I'm going to become a doctor. Okay. I'm going to become a surgeon. So thanks. Appreciate you. But it's a great story though.
He is. And I do wonder if maybe he'll give pro baseball a shot after this year for a
gotta get that clock started though, man. You got that Duke medical school paid for.
You're right.
You gotta get that shit going. Ain't no time. When you know what you are, you just go be who you are, Daron.
Yeah. No.
Ain't no fool around.
Sure, be fine. All right. Have we gone almost 15 minutes without the elephant, talking about the elephant in the room?
The Wolves?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Have we gone 15 minutes? Well, the only reason why I bring it up is because I'm going to set it up like this, because we got a couple of OG Sports Phone texts and calls about this.
Love it.
We have not received a single call or text about NC State baseball all season. I just want to be abundantly clear when I frame it this way. Not a single one about baseball.
Now, to be fair, we had some comments in the YouTube section during some of our live shows like, are you guys going to point out when they beat Clemson and when they beat who was the other one?
No, we brought up,
I think Clemson was number 2 and they swept them.
Louisville. We made an offhand remark about it, like a quick tangent. Then we also got like a Carolina person who's like, okay, so you're going to talk about that Clemson thing, but you're going to talk about how we kicked State's ass.
And
like
Gavin Gallagher's my other favorite player, by the way. There,
I'm okay. Let me rephrase. Have we caught a couple of texts here and there?
But not a proper call. Not someone saying 919-444-2211.
So my point stands. Not a single sports phone call about this. And then I saw a couple of calls come in. I got the email notifications and they were like state baseball related. I went, oh, they must have done something bad. Like what am I missing here? So sure enough, like I go to Backing the Pack because that's usually my first go-to. Like, what did NC State do with baseball? Right. So I go to backingthepack.com. And I say, oh, they lost twice to Stanford. That's why. There goes your ACC regular season championship, right? And this has upset some people, but is it a thing? Is it not a thing? Is the tournament more important? Like we do this with basketball, right? It's like, screw the regular season. It's all about the championship. I mean, are we not doing the same thing with baseball? Or is this more of this is a deeper conversation that state fans have with Elliott Avent specifically, who has done a hell of a lot with that program with not a lot, yet people only want to see a banner at some point.
I guess maybe there's a point to that. It would be a stupid banner. I like that's a regular season championship. I get it. It's a winnable series. It is a series you should have won to conclude the year over a Stanford team, by the way, that is not lacking talent. They have just slid off since their start to ACC play. Like Stanford was ranked at one point this season. So it's not a horrible series loss. And also, most of the top contenders in the conference don't just have one this season. They have a series that they've dropped that they should have won within the past 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So it does not concern me for NC State. So that I think would be like sort of the first box to check. I'm not concerned about NC State.
Okay.
They remain in the top 4 in the conference standings, which assures them a double bye in the conference tournament. Had they dropped down to 5th, then it matters, right? Because then you got to win 4 games instead of 3 to win an actual conference championship. They're safely in to the field of 64. So I don't.
But then it turns into they're safely in. But are they going to be? Are they going to host? That stuff matters, right?
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things that ultimately matter.
I'll put it this way: the only reason I know about Ben Miller is because I went to the 3 games between NC State and Duke earlier this season. And I left there going, man, Elliott does this every year. They start slow, then they get it together. And I left there going, they do not have the talent to get it together this year. And what bothers me about this is while I'm at Duke, and I'm really not putting down Duke. Daron, you may or may not know this. I don't really love Duke. I'm looking out on their outfield wall, and it says ACC champions. They have the 2 years, right? Last year and one of I think it was 21. And I'm looking at it, and I'm going, now, Joe earmuffs. Okay. I like to play the game. Who'd you rather be?
Oh boy.
Would you rather be Duke with 2 ACC championships in 21 and 24?
Yeah.
Or NC State, who's been to the College World Series not only in 21 and 24, but also in 12.
Yeah.
And I look at Duke's facility and I think they celebrate. Did they have a College World Series like back in the day, Daron?
Yeah.
They might. I think there's
something
one on the
like
wall or something like that, right?
They might not have even been.
They might even have
University.
one of those.
It
Like
might have been under
like
one of the old names. Like
yeah. But I'm just kind of looking at it and I'm going, right, what we have here is I understand hardline old NC State fans who are like, you've never won the ACC. You've been there for almost 30 years. I don't understand. Why can't you win the ACC? That's totally fair. This weekend in particular. Daron, to your point, Stanford has talent. I understand that. And NC State wins the first game. Really, all they had to do was tie their shoes and close this thing out and win the regular season, which isn't even a real thing anyway. Right? As you pointed out, the real championship is the tournament. But I'll say this. There are very few sports, and this is old hardline brain. Got to win the conference. Got to win the conference. Got to win the conference. Right? In baseball in particular, and I hate to sound like this religious convert, but after going to Omaha last year, if you were to poll every single player in college baseball and ask them, I'm saying every single one, I would say 100% of them would say, would you rather win a conference tournament or would you rather go to Omaha? Every single one of them would say,
Omaha.
I would rather go to Omaha.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to absolve Elliott for what happened this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to absolve the nearly 30 years without winning this thing, though he's been to the ACC championship game, 7 times, Daron?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to absolve that. What I'm trying to say is sometimes the paradigm shifts. And we have this old hardline set of got to win the conference, got to win the conference. And I'm not saying that isn't the case in basketball or football or some of these other sports. There is a value in winning the conference. I'm not diminishing that. But in baseball in particular, I'm telling you, of the people who will participate in the game, all of them would take NC State's experience over the last 6 years, even with that heartbreak in Omaha, over winning the conference title twice.
Yeah,
100%. It's a great point because this sport is not like the other sports.
It's really not.
Mhm.
It's
Like,
wild how different it is.
Teams get warm-up gear made at the beginning of the season that simply says Omaha across it. Like, that's the goal. Every team, every player, that's the goal. And it actually does not matter what it takes to get there. It doesn't. Like, that's especially a program like NC State, who's been there multiple times of recent vintage. Like, that's what they aim for now. And again, the stuff that you collect along the way, maybe you get to put another year up on your wall, maybe whatever. Like, that's fine. That's all well and good, and it can enhance your or it can better your chances to get to Omaha in certain cases, like giving you certain advantages in a conference tournament, qualify for an auto bid, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
But you're 100% right. Like, in a way that college basketball teams do not prioritize make the Final Four as a goal, right? It's win our conference because that'll get us into the field. Football, like, I don't know, maybe the best equivalent would be get to the college football playoff, but that goalpost moves every
That moves all the time.
now.
That moves all the time.
So you're right. It's a totally different. It is a totally different preset of goals for college baseball than, especially again with SEC teams, ACC teams.
Yep. Okay. We'll still play the sports phone calls though, because they're kind of amusing.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah,
It's fine.
absolutely.
I'm not trying to hand wave any of this stuff away. I think the mindset changes. Think about who's in the league now too.
Well, I think,
you know what I mean?
think if again, I'm not going to give away too much of the calls, but I get when I was putting them together, the thing that kind of sticks out is mostly along the lines of all the success that you've laid out, like going to those College World Series and all that kind of stuff. Like, how do you not stumble into one ACC championship?
Agree.
And of course, the one that sticks out the most is the
1-0 game in
the 1-0 game
in Charlotte.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, your bats have been hot all freaking year, and then all of a sudden you get shut out in a 1-0 game. Like, what are we talking about here? So I can see where that comes from.
Yeah.
Darren, we appreciate it as always.
Let's give us a pick. Who do you got winning this thing in Durham this week?
Who's doing the thing?
I think Clemson wins the ACC championship, the actual ACC championship this week.
All right. I like it. That just means State fans will call the sports phone again. All right. Darren, ACC Baseball, etc. is the podcast, part of D1. We appreciate the time. Thanks for returning my texts. Those are always moments where it's like, man, I haven't talked to Darren in a hot minute. He's going to love that I'm texting him right now to talk baseball.
Genuinely, Joe, yes, he was going to love that you were texting him to talk baseball. So if I may quickly plug, we're going to go live. You might have heard ESPN is not sending studio talent to the ACC Baseball Championship until later in the week. Thursday is going to be their first
hold up. They're doing remote broadcasts?
Between games. No. So game talent will be there, like play-by-play analysts. So normally they set up their little studio desk up on one of somewhere on the concourse, and they're not doing that coverage until Thursday.
Okay.
So to hopefully fill a void for ACC fans, we are going to go live post-game every game opening day on Tuesday.
Whoa, Darren.
Are you taking phone calls too?
We're not taking phone calls.
Whoa. No. I'm just saying. But still, you're revolutionizing the game here by going live immediately after a sporting event. I see you.
No one has ever.
I see you.
You see it. So we'll have a player and coach from the winning team.
Whoa!
We'll do that thing. We'll do that thing. So D1 Baseball YouTube and on Twitter and Facebook. I don't know where they stream stuff. To be completely honest,
where people will find it. The algorithm will feed it.
Keep Fitzy in line for me, okay?
I will. Absolutely will.
More playoff hockey means more opportunities for two Roosters at the arena.
Slave and Sunday, the best deal in the building.
I know you're going to look at the price and go, what? Then you see the Slave and Sunday, you go, oh, that's going to feed me for 2 days.
It's enough for 3.
It kind of is, yeah. So go to tworoosters.com. You can find out the flavors that are currently in rotation right now. Be able to look out for our flavor
Coming soon.
July is our flavor. I'm very excited about that. So go to tworoosters.com today. More opportunities to tailgate. It's Memorial Day weekend. You're probably hitting the pool. Maybe you're going out to the beach. Any number of reasons why you need to go to the Butcher's Market. So go check them out, thebutchersmarkets.com. We're talking about grilling out, right? Something as simple as hot dogs, burgers, already marinated chicken you can throw on the grill at your neighborhood pool. Easy enough. You want to tailgate, but you don't have time to really do anything? Get a sandwich there at Lake Boone on your way to the arena.
Steak and cheese, the best there is.
Best stuff, right? And if you're headed out to the beach, guess what? There's locations out in Wilmington.
Oh, yeah.
So drop on by the Butcher's Market. And of course, every time we talk about the ACC, like we did with Daron Vaught, it's brought to you by Keller Williams Commercial. Check them out online at trianglencommercial.com or call them directly at 919-616-8681. Commercial real estate, it's a highly specific niche type of real estate. You know, houses you can conceptualize. It's very easy to understand. That's why you need experts like Brian and Julie at the Donnelly team to help you out with exactly what you're looking for. You need warehouse space. You're looking for the perfect retail spot to open up your small business. They're going to help you out. So call them today at 919-616-8681 or go to trianglencommercial.com. All right, let's get out of here with some Hey Joe. Let's go back to the OG Sports phone, shall we?
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
Of course, the Sports phone always brought to you by Nature's Relief. Check them out online at naturesreliefhempstore.com. That's RELEAF hempstore.com. Did you know Nature's Relief will deliver?
Really?
They now deliver.
Amazing.
So you can get DoorDashed
to chill.
You can get DoorDashed. You can do two. DoorDash that and then DoorDash something later because you'll probably be hungry.
Perfect.
So you can get deliveries
Cutting
now
edge. I love it.
from Nature's Relief. So go check them out. All right, let's go to a 919. Yes, a 919.
Hello, OG. This is Garrison from Chicago. It's 3:30 on a Saturday. I'm in Raleigh for a wedding, and I'm sitting here at the Longleaf Swine. Just wanted to call and just say how much I enjoyed the podcast. I moved to Chicago from North Carolina in October, and no one in that market talks about NC State, the ACC, or the Canes. So I listen to you guys every day on my way home from work, and it's a little taste of home. Continue to do what you do. Hope there's big things in store for the Hurricanes and for the Wolfpack this year, at least for basketball. But I just wanted to say thank you so much. Shout out to the waiter, Joe, at Longleaf. He told me where you guys set up the pod, and I thought it was really cool seeing the Ovies and Joe Giglio flag. Hopefully you guys can sell that. Continue to do what you do. Go Pack.
I appreciate people coming through town and visiting the corporate champions. And great that Joey was the one who was at Longleaf Swine, making sure that you were taken care of.
Perfect.
I could not think of a better setup, man.
Nope.
Could not think of a better setup. All right, let's go to let's go to two of the phone calls that I referenced.
All right, here we go.
All right.
Hey guys, I've got a quote for you. That's for the fans. That's what the fans talk about. I've always talked about going to the postseason and having the chance to play for a national championship. I don't even know who won tonight. I have no idea. I've heard some dumb things in my life, and I'm not calling to complain the NC State baseball lost to Stanford 2 out of 3 times, where an ACC regular championship was on the line if you swept them since 1986. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that quote. Avent has 1,000 enemies. One of those is the NCAA selection committee. Do you think winning a regular season conference championship in a tough baseball league like the ACC would, I don't know, help you out? NC State baseball, we make things hard as hell on us.
Here's another.
That's fair now. That is fair.
That was from an 828. Here's from a 919.
I understand that the facilities suck, the funding sucks, the players aren't the best, but how do you coach somewhere for 45 years and not luck into one banner? I'm not saying Avent should be fired. I'm also saying you probably should just put his jersey on the side of the stadium. But also, George Tarantini was playing in a cornfield and painting his own lines on the field with guys who didn't know soccer was played with their feet. but he got a title in 1990. Everyone plays at NC State with lower funding. Keats went to the Final Four with nothing. The cross-country team won 2 natties with nothing. But how does Avent come and play and coach for 45 years with no banners? It's unbelievable. It's time to hang it up. We all love him. It's time to give it up. Night-night.
45 years.
45. We're counting New Mexico State here.
Oh, yeah. How old is Avent?
Not 45.
He's not 45 years at State. No.
28 at State. 45.
But you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I mean, 28 is a long time.
It is a long time, but you see what I'm getting at. So I do not hear this kind of stuff. We don't get this kind of stuff until. See what I'm getting at?
I hear you.
Anyway, just kind of interesting. All right, one more. We've gone this long.
Oh, well, no, this one I think is going to be fair.
Hey, Joe. It's Jake the Duke fan, tapping in from Durham. Have a kind of all-purpose, kind of a non-sequitur Belichick question / observation. I've noticed some certain prominent UNC fans on the internet complaining about the quote-unquote like invasive media coverage about Bill and Jordan Hudson, who's my queen, who I love her. I love her so much. I want more of her content, honestly. Anyway, this legendary UNC school known for journalism, kind of saying journalists should obey UNC PR reps who say, oh, stay away from questions about Belichick and Hudson's relationship, as if UNC and Belichick and Hudson didn't make that an issue in the first place. I find it interesting. I don't know. It's like, are we back in like the, 2011 or so when Dan Kane was being corrupt by doing his job and looking into fake classes at UNC? I don't know. Why does this legendary journalism school suddenly want to be able to shut down journalism? Thanks for your thoughts.
You see, it's like Andor. I'm cursed to use the tools of my enemy. The UNC journalism school. Yeah, what about that? We haven't really talked about Belichick today. I mean, it's fine. We got all week to talk about stuff. He did his interview with Michael Strahan on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
It was what you would expect. The one that's picked up steam is the Ryan Clark Pivot podcast appearance that Belichick had. And the only thing I would add to the discourse here is that and this is why I'm bouncing off the caller's point, right? UNC's pretty proud of how they run things. And Belichick is,
as they should be.
Belichick is saying it that, well, they're such a disorganized mess. I mean, I didn't even have a football SID. But you had somebody there that was in charge of these types of things, right? Like, it wasn't like you just got there and you had to build this whole, like, you had infrastructure in place to help you out with things. And that his whole thing is like, well, the only reason why I was including Jordan on these emails is because, we didn't have anybody to do that. I was getting requests all over the place. I mean, yeah, man, Robbie was running point for you on that stuff, man. So don't act like nobody was there to handle these things. And the only person that could do it for you was your girlfriend. So I'm going to call BS on that. I'm also going to call BS on what we kind of saw all last week with this retconning of how you got there and why she was there and what the relationship is and what exactly you were brought to UNC for. Because that's the other thing that my spidey senses are tingling, in that I feel like Bill is going through this process of though he's given some grace period to figure things out. No, you should have. Usually when a coaching staff arrives somewhere, you hit the ground running, dude. You don't have time to ramp things up. But I feel like the conversation leading up to the season and what we're going to get throughout July going into ACC kickoff is just, well, there's all these things that I'm kind of piecing together and learning, and we're just trying to stack days together. We're going to be a better football team when it's all said and done. No. We're not doing that. But that's the messaging.
Compare and contrast, right? You got Will Wade coming in, promising an apocalypse,
a reckoning, sir, a reckoning.
Right?
Bill's is
and
promising
Bill's like,
good
days.
days.
We're gonna win the day.
We're just gonna have
we're
good
win the
days
day
stacked together.
So we'll see. And they're both bought in for the same reason. They both have significant financial investments. And it's a year-to-year proposition. So this idea that you need some sort of wind-up is not accurate in 2025.
No. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. We'll see you tomorrow.